Hi, I'm Mike Monticello, and this is the review of the 2025 Mini Cooper. Now, the Mini Cooper is one of the most iconic models ever made, remaining true to its original concept and design for decades. It's been redesigned for 2025, but it has a similar silhouette, still has a minimalist interior, and the promise of uncommon handling agility. One of the biggest changes is that the interior has been simplified even further. There's now no gauge cluster in front of the driver whatsoever, and we're going to talk a lot more about that. For our test, we bought a 2025 Mini Cooper S hardtop two-door. It comes with a 201 horsepower 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and front-wheel drive. Along with a few options, including our test car's Sunnyside yellow paint and a package that brought blind spot warning, rear cross traffic warning, and adaptive cruise control, plus the extremely reasonable for the times $995 destination fee that Mini charges on all Coopers, the total cost was $36,995. EPA fuel economy for the Mini Cooper S two-door we tested is 28 miles per gallon city, 39 miles per gallon highway, or 32 miles per gallon combined. The Mini Cooper doesn't just come as the two-door that you see here. There's also a four-door version and a convertible, and all three are available with a standard 161 horsepower turbocharged 4-cylinder, as well as a sportier Model S with a 201 horsepower turbo 4-cylinder, and the high-performance John Cooper Works, which has even more power and stiffer suspension settings for better handling. Core to the Mini Cooper driving experience is combining its charming looks with agile handling and a spirited powertrain. And for the most part, that continues with this latest redesign. But there are some compromises that you'll have to put up with, including an uneven or even manic at times power delivery and a very stiff ride. But one of the biggest bummers is that the 2025 Mini Cooper is no longer available with a manual transmission. It comes only with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. So even though the car's been redesigned, it still looks very familiar as a Mini. And it all starts with these big round headlights, as well as a large grille that together kind of give it this happy, smiling face. Very short front overhangs, and then you've got different color mirror and roof than the rest of the body. And then it all ends with a very short rear overhang. And again, that's very much a Mini thing, and it makes the car look small, which it very much is. So what's it like to live with a Mini Cooper? Well, the first thing as a driver is that it's quite odd that there's nothing in front of you, not even a speedometer. And everything is over in the center screen here, which is its infotainment, its climate, and its miles per hour, fuel gauge, all of that is over here. Now, the nice thing about that is that leaves you free to have the steering wheel anywhere you want without blocking any of the gauges. Now, this is partially rectified by our test car's pop-up head-up display, which is going to show information like current speed, the fuel gauge, ADAS settings, things like that up on this kind of portrayed up here. But first we're going to bring it up. So we'll go here like this. We'll go to displays, then we'll go to head-up display, and then we'll turn it on, and then it kind of comes up. But it's just, that's not the way most head-up displays are. Most head-up displays are just portrayed up onto the windshield. This kind of comes across as an afterthought, the way it has this translucent panel that rises up and retracts down. It just doesn't seem like this was kind of their original intention. They just threw it in afterward. Most other aspects of the driving position are pretty good. There's plenty of headroom. Both armrests are pretty well positioned in terms of being symmetrical, although they could both use a little bit more padding. And then we have a large left footrest or dead pedal. So most cars have a pretty high and wide center console. This one's pretty low though, and so you don't have the intrusion with your right knee that gets quite uncomfortable in most vehicles. There is some intrusion, but it's more with your shin, and it almost serves as a little bit of a brace. So we find this a lot easier to deal with than your typical high center console. And we also love this thick rimmed steering wheel. It just feels really good in your hands. We had mixed feelings about the front seats in our Mini Cooper S. On the one hand, it has all manual adjustments, although a power seat is available. And the problem with manual seat adjustments, for me especially, like it just makes it harder to find that exactly right seat back spot, for that just right position. The other thing that people noticed is that the padding is just very much on the firm side. Some people like a firm seat, some people don't like it as much. They want something that's a little more plush. On the bright side, the seat back has very nice side bolsters, which kind of hold you in place through a turn. but they're wide enough that the seat should be able to fit a lot of bodies. Then again, the bottom cushion doesn't have much in the way of lateral support, so your legs kind of just go out to the side, and because it doesn't have any power adjustments, there's no ability to tilt the leading edge of the bottom cushion up, which can often help to give you a little more leg support. Not surprisingly, since the Mini is a small car, storage space is pretty limited inside here. And just even the door pockets alone are so narrow that they're nearly useless. So that leaves you using this very shallow open bin right here. And because the sides are so short, it's pretty easy to have stuff fall out, especially if you're like taking a corner with some ferocity because you're having fun on a good road. And there's also, unlike just about every other vehicle, there isn't any storage underneath the center armrest. The other thing, it's just a little bit awkward the way Mini has you kind of secure your phone. You have to kind of lift this thing, and you've got this elastic, and it holds the phone in place pretty well, but there's just something weird about having this piece sitting on your phone that, I don't know, personally bothers me a little bit. I just don't want anything pressing on my phone like that. So when we're assessing outward visibility, it's all about how easy is it to see out of the car, really more for a safety perspective, because we want to be able to easily see other vehicles and maybe pedestrians in intersections. And in general, the Mini's pretty good because it has a fair amount of glass area all the way around the vehicle. And of course, it all starts up front with these windshield pillars. Now, they're a little bit on the thick side, but because they're kind of upright, it actually makes them fairly easy to look around them through corners, although they do get kind of thick at the base, which is a bit of a bummer. But the bigger issue up front is just that, as with Minis of the past, the top of the roof goes pretty far forwards, which means that at stoplights, you might, if you're the first person in line at a stoplight and you're pretty far up, you might have to kind of look underneath to be able to see whether the, when the light turns green. But beyond that, we really like that the front side windows and the rear side windows are nice and long. They're not very tall, but they're quite long, which helps with over-the-shoulder views. But then when you get all the way rearward, as with many vehicles these days, the rear three-quarter, as we call it, has a very large rear pillars and a pretty squat rear window, so views back there aren't too great. So as I said at the beginning of the video, this car uses this new large circular screen in the very center of the dash. This serves triple duty as the driver's information, the climate control, and all the entertainment stuff. And while there is certain design aesthetic about the car that is simplistic, this thing is not simplistic, and this was kind of a major area of problems for us because there's just very few things that are easy to do. And a lot of that starts with the climate controls. For instance, just even to change the temperature, you have to first click on something and then click on these small icons to change it. And if you want to go further into climate stuff, you have to click on this tiny little icon. And keep in mind, you're doing this while the car is bouncing up and down because it has a very stiff ride. And then again, you're clicking on tiny icons to change the fan speed, or larger icons, luckily, to change the airflow mode. But you have to go into the climate mode in order to make those changes, other than adjusting the temperature. Same thing, you have to do, press extra steps to do the seat heater. So those kinds of things we find kind of annoying, and it just makes the car more difficult to drive, distracting to use, and we're not fans of that. There are some other controls that are more non-conventional that we can deal with, but they're also just even just the way you start the car alone. You turn this kind of key-like thing right here, either this way to turn it on or this way to turn it off. And it's just a little bit unintuitive just that it's even there. So right next to the starter switch turny thing is this also kind of unconventional toggle switch for the gear selector lever. And it's just, first of all, they're both two odd switches right next to each other. And once you get used to it, you can understand that you're gonna go down for drive and you're gonna go, up for reverse. But then it's a little bit unintuitive that you're gonna press P for park. So it's just not, you can get used to it, but you shouldn't have to get used to some of those things. Some of these things are just different for the sake of being different, and we're not fans of that. Another thing that we don't like that's a multi-step process is turning off the engine stop-start system, which is a system designed to save fuel and reduce emissions by turning off the engine when you're idling at stoplights. It turns off the car, it's better for the environment, it's better for fuel economy, but that stop-start system exacerbates this car's low-speed hiccups and delays. So you're probably going to want to turn that off. In most cars, or a lot of cars, there's like a pretty easy physical button that you can just press each time you get in. And by the way, you're going to have to press it each time because it doesn't stay off. You'll have to redo it each time. But it's not an easy thing because you have to, press a button here, and then you have to go up to the screen and turn it on or off. And that's just another annoyance that you're going to have to deal with on a daily basis. Another slightly negative thing is that the Mini Cooper doesn't come standard with as many active safety features as we'd like to see. That said, the Mini Cooper does come standard with automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, automatic emergency braking that operates at highway speeds, lane departure warning, and automatic high beams. The optional active driving assistant package does include blind spot warning, rear cross traffic warning, reverse automatic emergency braking, lane change assistance, and an exit warning to alert when a cyclist or a vehicle is approaching from behind when you're parked. The Mini Cooper also comes standard with a rear belt minder, which alerts the driver if a rear passenger unbuckles their seatbelt during the trip. But the Cooper doesn't come standard with a rear occupant alert, which can help prevent children and pets from being unintentionally left behind in a hot or cold vehicle. Most of the materials in here look kind of cool and different. I mean, Mini did a really nice job styling this interior to make it look fun. And there's some pretty cool features, like just little neat styling details. Like for instance, just this fabric strip, the 6 o'clock position of the steering wheel, that's pretty unique. We don't typically see that. And then there's like these sort of, platinum trim for the door latches and the air vents and on the steering wheel. They just kind of spruce things up a little bit. But there are some things that look cool that don't come across as very high quality. And probably the most glaring example is this fabric-like material on the dash and the doors that looks like it would be soft and nice to touch, but it's actually really scratchy. So we're not big fans of that. And then other things, just like the sun visors, are really brittle and cheap feeling. So we also don't like that. And also these dash vents they kind of feel a little flimsy when you're just trying to adjust them. So they don't feel quite as high a quality as you might like. As you might expect, it's a bit difficult to get into the Mini's back seat, especially this two-door model like our test car. It does tilt and slide forward a bit, which is good, but you still are left with a pretty small entryway, and that's going to be a bit of a problem for adults or anybody with a mobility issue. This is really best for kids, but you can get back here in a pinch. So space is going to be cramped for anyone above an average-sized adult. It's actually not terrible back here. I mean, I have just barely enough headroom. Knee room is pretty tight, but foot space underneath the front seats actually isn't too bad. And the reality is the seat itself, if you fit, is actually pretty comfortable. Even with this rather upright seat back that can't be reclined, it's actually not too bad. It's also not going to come as a shock that the Mini Cooper has a mini cargo area. We were only able to fit one large suitcase and one overnight duffel bag behind the rear seat in its raised position. But you can drop both of these seats down, and when you do that, you're going to get, quite a bit more cargo area. And another neat thing is that it has an adjustable load floor. So the higher load floor is easier to deal with because then you have a flush surface here, which is easier to put stuff in and pull it back out. But if you need to get a little more space, you can drop this down, and then you've got just a little bit more height if you need it. We have a lot more information about how the Mini Cooper S drives, from its powertrain performance to its handling, ride, and the fuel consumption testing that we do right here at the Auto Test Center, and our full road test up on consumerreports.org.